Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Casual Brews here with my Week 7 NFL recap. Um, Pick-wise, not a bad week. I went 15 and 11, 7 and 6 against the spread, 8 and 5 on the over/under totals. Um, Again, not a very good early slate. So a couple of the games started off well, and then I was keeping up with the scores and was kind of out and about doing things for the first part of the day, but was following along as some of my picks were kind of going downhill. But overall, pretty good. Did good in the afternoon. Went three for four on the primetime games again this week. And yeah, so Thursday nighter was a good start to the week. I figured it would be like a low scoring backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, basically a backup quarterback. Yeah, so it was a low-scoring game, 17-14 Cleveland. So I picked Cleveland to win and the under as well. I don't know, not much you could say really about this game. Denver and Carolina, two teams that both started really well, beating maybe some subpar teams, and now, neither of them look very good. Denver needs a quarterback in the worst way. They got some pieces, receivers. Their defense is still solid, but like even just watching Teddy, like he just can't make some of the most basic throws. He just looks awkward throwing the football too. Just doesn't have a good motion throwing the ball from the pocket. Yeah, it's not good. They need a quarterback in Denver in the draft, most likely. Next up, Cincinnati 41, Baltimore 17. It's probably the biggest shock of the week, you could say. Everyone knew Cincinnati was a solid team. They've hung in there. They won some good games and hung in against teams like Green Bay. But they kicked the shit out of Baltimore. Yeah. I had the over at least in this one, but I was way off. I figured I'd picked against Baltimore a couple times and they'd burn me. So I had to ride with them at only 6 points. I thought they could win by a touchdown. And they got killed. Burrow and the offense clicking on all cylinders, and their defense, I think, is the biggest surprise. I mean, you knew with the weapons Burrow has that they could be a factor offensively, but their defense is really good too. So they're a team to watch out for sure. I mean, it'll be interesting to see these two teams play again down the line. And right now, since he's in a playoff spot, they're the number one seed in the AFC currently. So they can keep this rolling. It'll be fun to watch Burrow and Chase in the playoffs. And that run game too. They're running the ball well. And, Burrow in his, second full year, obviously getting injured last year. He's right up there with any of the quarterbacks, I think, in the league. So yeah, I won the over, lost the spread there. Next one we had Titans 27, Kansas City Chiefs 3. Another kind of shocking game, although I did pick Tennessee to cover. I didn't quite trust them enough to pick them outright to win, but at least I won that. I lost the over by a mile. I mean, just because Kansas City couldn't score. And then Tennessee, I don't think Tennessee even got a point in the second half. It was a 3-0 Chiefs second half. Just obviously Tennessee had the game won. Chiefs look like they kind of given up. They couldn't move the ball, shockingly, because we saw against Buffalo, the Titans don't have a great defense. They might have one of the weaker defenses in the league, but they probably heard all the noise and they came to play today. And the Chiefs just looked discombobulated offensively. It's just bad. They're taking risks when they shouldn't because they know they have to score on almost every possession because their defense is so bad. So they're taking unnecessary risks. The biggest one, Mahomes, he had the first down running the ball, kept going another 5, 6, 7 yards, whatever it was, and then fumbled. That was a key point in the game there. Yeah, so Chiefs are in trouble. They've looked shaky all season, and this was just the final blow, I think. I don't know. Still enough time to get it turned around, but that's a pretty strong division, maybe. I mean, you got Chargers and the Raiders to contend with in that division, so they're running out of time. If they don't have a statement win next week, they're probably toast. So yeah, I won the Titans spread and lost the over-under there. Next one, Falcons 30, Dolphins 28. I got really burned on the spread here because when I bet it, it was Atlanta minus 2.5, which I took, And then at game time, it actually moved to 1.5. So this is probably one of the more exciting games of the slate this week, and a kind of a pretty weak slate, a lot of blowouts. Miami kind of started slow. Actually, no, they scored in their first drive, but they kind of were slow in the middle of the game. Kind of Falcons, I think, had the lead by a couple scores. Then Miami clawed back, took the lead 28. I think it was 28-27. Miami took a lead with a touchdown. And then I think Falcons in like a minute or less got into field goal range and kicked the winning field goal to go up 30-28. So for all those people who bet the Falcons closer to game time, they covered. But me, because I bet it on, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday of that week, I lost by, half a point. Sucks. So, yeah, obviously people like Miami enough that line moved down. And yeah, they look good. I mean, Dolphins still obviously a bad team. The Falcons also not as bad, but still probably a bad team too. Defensively, there's still some question marks there. And, Matt Ryan's getting a little older. He looked good today, though. He made a one really nice throw deep down the sideline, I think to Pitts, on that game-winning drive. That was a thing of beauty. Just perfect placement. So, Falcons could at least be frisky. They could hang tight. Interesting to see them play the Bucs again and how they can hang, maybe make it a little tough on them. But yeah, so I lost that game. I also picked the under. I just thought it's a stupid pick in hindsight because neither team really has shown much defensively. I just thought, I don't know what I was thinking with that pick, honestly. It obviously missed by a mile, so that was a dumb pick. I think I just thought, honestly, that Miami wouldn't score much and Atlanta would win comfortably, which they kind of looked like they were going to maybe at times, but anyway. Next up, Giants 25, Carolina 3. I was way off on this one too. I just thought Carolina, my God, they got started off 3-0, yeah, against bad teams, but something's got to give. 3 straight losses, I just thought we're gonna have pride there against a Giants team that still got some injuries. They could have be at a bounce back spot here, maybe win kind of ugly-ish. But no, Giants killed him. Darnold looked terrible. He got benched. They don't really have other options at quarterback besides him, so that's why they're in the Deshaun Watson trade talks. But I don't know. He hasn't played all year. I don't know how much better he's going to be. Maybe a little rusty, but at least he gives you a bit more of a, I don't know, maybe a spark. I don't know. So obviously they'd have to give up a lot to get him. And at this point in the season, do you really want to? You're about 3-4 now, I think they are. I don't see the point. But yeah, so I had Carolina to cover. They got killed. And the over 43 wasn't even close either because the Giants' defense is still pretty good. And they smothered Carolina in this game. And Carolina turning the ball over in that didn't do them any favors. So I lost that one, both sides. Next up, Patriots 54, Jets 13. I was right in thinking that the Patriots, under Belichick going against a rookie quarterback, could win by at least a touchdown. I thought that was a fairly easy bet. And they won by a lot more than that, and they covered the over-under by themselves. It was 42.5. I just thought it'd be kind of a low-scoring, grungy game. I didn't think the Jets could really score, which they kind of didn't. They only got 13 points. But 54 from New England was insane. Belichick obviously hates the Jets, had no problem running up the score against them. Was it like 20-something years of a grudge from this time with them? I mean, jeez. So that was a blowout. Obviously, the over hit there. So I won one out of those two. Jets, they are who they are. They're not a good team. The roster has some holes in it, obviously, and Wilson, maybe they need, I don't even know who their offensive coordinator is, but maybe you need to get a new voice in there on that side of the ball. I don't know. Make things a little easier for him. But yeah, they stink. The Patriots, it's hard to tell because they've had a couple close calls. The Texans game was close. Then they hung in tight with the Cowboys and they hung in tight with the Bucs. So they're not a bad team, but if they can string some wins together, they'll be in the hunt for a wild card spot. So watch out for New England. They might still have something there. Mac Jones seemingly looks a bit better every week. And they got some pieces. Their running game has been really good, and they can run the ball and play defense. In Foxborough, they could string a late season run together. It wouldn't shock me at all to see them get back in the playoffs. Next up, Green Bay 24, the Washington football team 10. Yeah, I was right on both sides here. I figured Green Bay could cover 7.5. I don't think Washington's very good. Quarterback is looking worse every week. Their offense in general is. So I thought it would be a low-scoring game. I just see Green Bay a lot of times not try to do too much. If they know they can keep a team at bay, keep them within that 2 scores, they don't have any problem running the clock, running the ball, keeping it a lower-scoring game, and that's what this was, 24-10. I had the under. I had Green Bay to cover. The game went pretty much exactly how I expected it. A game that didn't go exactly how I expected it was Rams 28, Lions 19. I had the minus 15 for the Rams here. I mean, it wasn't that far off. It's still a 2-score game, but Detroit's been feisty, and I just figured, and they've been feisty early in the year, keeping games close, covering big spreads and that, but just the way they got destroyed last week, I thought, man, maybe that magic's ran out. Rams being a really good team, thought they could, run the score up on them here, but, Detroit had the lead a lot of this game until the Rams just kind of got their offense rolling, took the Seahawks common playbook of keeping a bad team comfortable for a little while and your offense doing nothing and then finally turning up the gear in the fourth quarter. So they still won by 2 scores, but obviously didn't cover. I did have the under 50.5 here, though, because I thought Rams defense is really good. I just thought this would be a blowout and Detroit would struggle to score just like they did the prior week. So at least that under hit there, 50.5. Thought that was a little too high for these two teams playing. Next up, we had another game that I hit both correct on. Raiders 33, Eagles 22. This game wasn't really as close as that score indicated, but Philly seems to have a habit of making a blowout look less of a blowout, scoring in garbage time. So thankfully they did that, hit my over 49. But yeah, Raiders, Rich Bisaccia seems to have them going. They obviously seem to like playing for him. He's a guy that's been in the league a long, long time. Gets a lot of respect from his players, obviously, and they look really good. They look more like the Raiders team that went 3-0 than the one that lost, 2 games after that, back-to-back. So they're still rolling. They're still in that division with, obviously, the Chiefs being kind of out of that now, and the Chargers, they're still right there, playoff spot or division lead. It'll be, again, interesting to see those top 2 teams in that division play each other down the line. So Raiders won comfortably. That was good to see. Eagles still some question marks there. First-year head coach, can't maybe put a ton of stock into it. I think the roster just isn't quite good enough all around. Thankfully, they have a ton of draft picks. They have the Dolphins' first-round pick, which will be probably a top 5 pick. Their own pick, obviously, and I think they have someone else's first-round pick. I forget who it might be, but they got the draft capital to kind of fill their roster out a bit because I think they still need help on the offensive line. Hurts hasn't looked good, but he hasn't had a lot of help up front. Their defense is solid at times, but they'll need help there probably too. They just don't have a good roster, and I think it's a lot of people. I see Eagles fans just already calling for Hurts, to lose his job, but you got other issues, I think, on that roster. He's shown enough promise at times. He may not be the answer long term, but it's hard to tell, I think, just with the pieces around him not being that good. So I would give him another year if I'm an Eagles fan. Next up, Tampa Bay, 38, and the Bears 3. Silly me, I thought the Bears could keep this close just off the strength of their defense. Sometimes Brady can get flustered by pressure, and I thought the Bears would bring that, keep him uncomfortable, and keep the game close, low scoring maybe, 20-14 maybe kind of game, but Bucs rolled them, and it helped their cause by the Bears having no ability to move the ball, and Justin Fields turning it over, I think, 4 times himself. Maybe 5, I don't know. So yeah, they constantly had short fields, and they ran the ball well. They knew the Bears can rush the passer, so they just, like, their first drive, I think after the Bears went 3-and-out in their first drive, Bucks got like a 50-yard punt return, got the ball in field goal range already, and then ran the ball twice to score a touchdown or something, 3 times. So Bears, although they can rush the passer, seemingly couldn't stop the run, and that's the formula Brady can take advantage of. Keeps the pass rush a little bit hesitant, and that's when he starts picking you apart with his arms. So perfect formula for the Bucks. Bears looked like garbage. Tough to you don't want to overreact to one game if you're a Bears fan, but that was ugly. I mean, it was like the Browns game, pretty much a carbon copy of that. Fields just looked out of sorts. He's still new, right? He's only his fifth start. So tough to put too much stock into that against the Super Bowl champs. But yeah, it was ugly. I at least had the under 47 here. I did think it would be a low scoring, maybe kind of close game. At least it was low scoring on the fact that Chicago only had 3 points. So thank you for that, Bears. At least. It's one good thing about taking the spread and the over-under, because some of these games I'm like way off on the spread, but I kind of at least had an idea of how the game would go. So at least I get the over-under to break even on that game. Next up, we have Cardinals 31, Houston Texans 5. Again, I thought 17.5 is just insane. Considering Houston, I was thinking to their game against the Patriots. Thought they could keep this kind of close. I thought Arizona has struggled with some. They struggled with Jacksonville. They struggled with the Vikings. The Vikings might actually be fairly decent, but they don't always blow everyone out. They had their big win against the Rams, but they've kind of, while undefeated, they've had some less convincing wins. So I thought I thought they would maybe struggle to completely blow the doors off of the Texans here. Texans still have some decent pieces on defense. But the game was kind of close. For a while, I thought that spread would hold. But Arizona kind of just blew it open in the end. So, yeah, Cardinals 31, Texans 5. I lost the spread, but again, I hit the under 47.5 because, like I've done a couple times with Houston, I just didn't think they would score enough to cover their end of the bargain. And, yeah, so under hit there. And next we have the Sunday Nighter. I was all over this one. Colts money line. They were 4-point underdogs. I thought they would win, and I had no doubt about that. I'm not a believer in the 49ers. Granted, it was a terrible weather game, but I think even in good conditions, I just think Carson Wentz right now is a better quarterback than Jimmy G. And obviously, if Trey Lance was playing, I'd feel even more comfortable about it because he hasn't had the reps to become a good quarterback yet. So this was a no-brainer to me. I think this is the last time you'll see the Niners being a favorite against any comparably decent team outside of the bottom feeders. Yeah, it was all over this one. Colts have shown me enough. Obviously, they had that tough collapse against the Ravens, but they've shown they're a solid team, and Wentz looks almost like not quite his MVP caliber self that he was in that Super Bowl year with the Eagles when he got hurt, but he's looking really good. He throws a great deep ball. He's got some weapons at receiver too, and they were missing a couple. They were missing Hilton and the other guy's names slipped my mind, but Pittman looks like a good deep threat. They have a really good connection, whether it just be catching the ball or drawing pass interference. You do 2 big pass interferences down the field. That works. And the run game is solid too. And Wentz obviously can run the ball a little bit himself. I had a little prop of him to score a touchdown. That hit, obviously. And yeah, they look good. The Colts look good. The defense can still be a little shaky in the secondary at least, because I think they got some injuries there. But yeah, I was all over this one. I'm not a believer in the Niners. I know when they're fully healthy, they're still a solid team, but I don't know. Just Kyle Shanahan, it's like their first drive, they scored a touch, or I think it was their first drive. They scored a touchdown on their first drive, running the ball down the Colts' throat, right? And what do they do the next drive? Pass. Like, he's just, and I tweeted this, he's a chronic overthinker. You saw it in when he was the offensive coordinator calling the plays in Atlanta in that Super Bowl, the big 28-3 game. Got the ball down to like the Patriots 20-yard line with like 3-4 minutes to go or something. It's you could make it a 2-score game by just running the ball and kicking the field goal. And yeah, they overthought it. They tried to drop back pass, holding call, sack. I don't know. I think the book's coming out on him. He's very overrated. And just the Niners in general, especially with injuries, like even when fully healthy, there's still something I don't trust in them. But with the injuries they've got piling up again now on both sides of the ball, losing Kittle's big because when Jimmy G, I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. So when the going gets tough, he just dumps it off to Kittle, and Kittle powers through linebackers and gets 10 yards. So without him, he's got to look, and he's got some good weapons still, Deebo Samuel, and the running game is still effective when they choose to use it and not just let Jimmy G throw after running the ball successfully. I just think he misses Kittle. That safety blanket's huge. To a lesser degree, you had Brady and Gronk when, if teams are getting after Brady, dump it off to Gronk, right? But, I was all over this one. Yeah, Niners, not good. Injuries, not good. So, see if Seattle can catch them for that coveted third spot in the NFC West. And speaking of which, so yeah, I had Colts to win, and I had the over 44 as well. It was something like 90% of the people picked the under in this game, and it got all the way down to 42 at game time, or 42 and a half at game time, and I just thought the Colts would find a way to score enough. I thought, especially with injuries, and the Colts offensively looked pretty good, I just thought they alone would score enough to kind of tilt that and get the over by a little bit, which it did. It hit with 2 or 3 minutes to go on that last Colts touchdown, so that was good. And yeah, speaking of NFC West, I already did a full recap on this game, but Saints 13, Seattle 10, just an ugly game. I don't have to imagine. I see the reaction to it. As not a fan of either of these teams, this must have been one of the worst games to watch, especially a primetime game. Obviously, as a Seahawks fan, don't care how ugly the game looks. I'm still watching every second of it. A game the Seahawks looked like they could have had. Let it slip away. Geno, play calling, a lot of issues. As bad as Geno was, he still could have won them the game had they maybe called a game plan, quick passes in that, not running 8 straight times against one of the better front sevens, especially front fours in the league. I know he doesn't show you a ton throwing the ball to make it seem like that's the plan, but maybe pass the ball to the running back a couple times, get him in space, make them make tackles. Collins is pretty good at evading tackles. He's not quite Chris Carson, but he's close. He's a good open field running back. Instead of running him straight up the middle, and 2 missed field goals obviously hurt, but they made those field goals harder than they needed to be by the play calling and the execution prior to them. But this game went a lot like I expected. I was going to root for the Seahawks. I took them plus 4.5. Didn't want to take a money line. Although in this separate pool picks, just pick them win or loss pool I'm in, I did pick them in that one to win a couple days later on Friday. So I figured it would go a lot like the Pittsburgh game. 3-point game. Maybe Seahawks just come up a little bit short just off of their quarterback play, and they did. Had the ball again, even better position, multiple chances to win the game, and they blew it. So I did have the over 42.5. I thought it would be something like 23-20, not 13-10, but obviously the rain played a bit of a factor. And yeah, both defenses played pretty well, honestly. The Saints front was all over ours, was all over our offensive line. Our offensive line looked terrible. And then Seattle's secondary played well. Trey Brown, DJ Reed, obviously, too. They're stepping up. Jamal Adams had his first good game of the year, I dare I say. He made that one really nice. Although maybe on second look, it looked maybe more of a drop, but the fact that he got there on that play down the sideline to Kevin White, right as the ball got there, definitely affected White's ability to catch it. So he looked good. He was kind of buzzing around. Yeah, two good defensive performances, and you know the Saints just combated that better by, again, throwing the ball to Kamara in space, dumping it off to him when you're in trouble. Whereas the Seahawks, they played right into the Saints' hands, ran it right up the middle. Let Geno sit back in the pocket for 7-8 seconds and look for whatever he was looking for instead of scheming like quick passes for him. They game plan like it was Wilson at quarterback, not Geno Smith. So yeah, that's that one. Again, I already did a full recap on this game, so won't bore any neutral fans with that any longer. So yeah, 15-11 week overall. Pretty good. Honestly, I was, when I was tallying them up, I'm like, shit, because I thought I was going to be just maybe a game over 500, because I did pretty bad in the early slates again, but ended up doing, that's solid. If I can go 15-11 every week, I'll take that. That's profit. So there you go. Week 8 preview will be coming up shortly afterwards. Probably a better slate of games to watch, so stay tuned for that.